Let me be real with you. At some point, you have to stop calling pain a love. You have to stop confusing disrespect with passion. You have to stop making excuses for someone who constantly makes you question your worth. Because love, real love, doesn't make you beg for attention. It doesn't make you feel small, insecure, or invisible. And I get it. I've been there. You hold on because you remember the good times. You remember how they used to treat you. But hear me loud. Someone who loves you doesn't just love you when it's convenient. They love you consistently. This is not love. Love doesn't lie. Love doesn't gaslight. Love doesn't disappear when you need it most. So today, I'm choosing me. Not out of bitterness, but out of healing. Not out of hate, but out of growth. Because when you keep calling dysfunction a love, you teach your heart to settle. You teach your spirit to shrink. And that's not your purpose. So this is my declaration. I'm done. Done letting someone else write the story of my worth. The story of my worth. Done confusing chaos with chemistry. Done mistaking control for care. I'm done holding on to something that keeps letting go of me. And because I know what I deserve, I'm done somewhere along the line. We were taught that love was supposed to hurt. Maybe it was the movies. Maybe it was what we saw growing up. Maybe it was the first person who broke us, but called it love while doing it. So we started believing that pain was part of the process. That struggle was romantic. That the more we suffered, the more real it must be. But let me tell you, that's a lie. Love was never meant to break you just to prove it's real. If you have to bleed for it, question it every night, or lose pieces of yourself to keep it, it's not love. You can't keep calling someone's inability to love you properly a rough patch. You can't keep excusing their lack of effort as they're just going through something. We all go through things, but love doesn't disappear when life gets hard. It's not supposed to be a roller coaster of chaos, followed by moments of peace that trick you into staying. Real love doesn't come in waves of apology and silence. It shows up. It stays. It chooses you every single day, not just when it's convenient. Pain should never be the currency you pay for love. It's not a test you have to pass. It's not a challenge to overcome just to prove how strong your heart is. If someone loves you, they won't put you through hell and expect a thank you at the end. They won't hurt you just to watch you crawl back. That's not love. That's manipulation dressed up in emotion. That's trauma calling itself romance. That's a person trying to control you with confusion. But here's what happens. You start to believe this is normal. You start to think maybe this is what everyone goes through. So you accept the late replies, the emotional distance, the broken promises, the apologies that always sound the same but never come with change. You say at least they didn't leave, but what you don't realize is they already did, emotionally, mentally. And you're the only one still fighting for something that's not even fighting for you. You can't heal in a place that keeps hurting you. And love doesn't require you to sacrifice your peace, your worth, or your sanity. If the only time they show love is after they've broken you, that's not love, it's guilt. If they only apologize when they see you pulling away, it's not growth, it's fear of losing control. Love doesn't wait until you're shattered to realize your value. It sees it from the start, and it works to protect it, not destroy it. Some people are addicted to chaos. They only know how to love in extremes. Highs and lows, makeups and breakups. And maybe they're doing the best they can with what they've been taught. But that doesn't mean you have to stay in it. Just because someone is broken doesn't mean it's your job to hold their pieces together while you fall apart. Loving someone shouldn't feel like a full-time rescue mission where you're the only one showing up. You were not created to constantly prove that you're worthy of love. You shouldn't have to beg for consistency. You shouldn't have to explain why you deserve to be treated right. Love that hurts you more than it heals you isn't love. It's a lesson. And the longer you stay, the deeper the lesson cuts. The longer you justify it, the more damage you carry. And the more damage you carry, the more distant you become from the version of yourself who knew what she deserved. So maybe it's time to call it what it is. This isn't love. This is pain wearing a mask. This is someone's unhealed trauma leaking onto you. This is someone calling you home, but never being there when you arrive. This is survival, not love. This is confusion, not commitment. And until you stop confusing the two, you'll keep settling for half-hearted love while your whole heart is breaking. We've romanticized the wrong things for too long. We think yelling is passion. We think jealousy is love. We think slamming doors, heated arguments, and emotional chaos means someone cares. But let me say this as clearly as possible. Disrespect is not passion. It's not love, and it never was. You're not being fought for. You're being pulled into someone's emotional immaturity and then made to believe that chaos equals connection. Real love doesn't raise its voice to silence yours. It doesn't put you down, then dress it up as a just being honest. It doesn't cross your boundaries and call it intensity. There is nothing romantic about being belittled. There is nothing passionate about being controlled. Love is not domination. It's not manipulation disguised as concern. If you have to sacrifice your dignity just to keep the peace, you're not in a relationship, you're in a prison. Too many people are stuck in situations where they confuse toxicity for loyalty. They hear, I act like this because I care, and believe it. But yelling, threats, guilt trips, and emotional outbursts are not how love speaks. Passion isn't proved through pain. It's proved through respect, through consistency, through being safe even in disagreement. If someone can't handle conflict without attacking you, that's not passion. That's a problem. And don't let the highs fool you. Just because they cry after the damage is done doesn't make them deep. That doesn't make them sensitive. That makes them reactive. Passion is not the apology after the explosion. It's not the affection that only comes after emotional damage. That's a cycle, not love. Real passion is when someone honors you even when they're angry. Real passion is self-control, not outbursts. Some people mistake control for love. They get possessive and call it protection. They get angry when you speak up and call it just how I am. But love doesn't shame you for having a voice. It doesn't get offended when you have needs. Love doesn't feel threatened by your strength. So if someone needs to weaken you just to feel powerful, that's not love. That's ego. And egos don't love. They only possess. We need to stop glorifying emotional chaos. Stop thinking someone who fights with you all the time must really love you. There's not passion, that's instability. And I know you might think, but we have fire. But the real question is, does the fire warm you or does it burn you? Because if all they bring is heat and not healing, you're not in love. You're just surviving someone else's storm. You deserve love that doesn't confuse you. That doesn't make you anxious or unsure. That doesn't make you feel like you're walking a tightrope between affection and abuse. If you're constantly questioning where you stand, constantly trying to decode their mood, constantly trying not to set them off, that's not passion. That's fear. And love doesn't live where fear controls everything. So no matter how intense it feels, if it lacks respect, it's not love. If it hurts you more, then it helps you. It's not passion. Passion isn't proven in how loud someone yells or how jealous they get. It's proven in how well they love you when it's hard to, in how they treat you when they're frustrated, and how they protect your heart, not just pursue your body. Disrespect is not love. Disrespect is not passion. It's time to stop pretending it is. Love isn't something you turn on and off when it suits you. It's not a light switch that flickers only when the room feels dark. If someone only shows up when they're lonely, bored, or in trouble, that's not love. That's convenience. And there's a difference between someone who wants you around when they need something and someone who chooses you when it costs them something. Consistency is what separates love from attention. Anyone can text you I miss you at 2 a.m. Anyone can check in when they feel your absence. But real love doesn't wait until you walk away to realize your value. It doesn't resurface just because you're slipping out of reach. It's not love. That's fear of losing access to what they never appreciated when they had it. Someone who loves you shows up on the ordinary days, not just the desperate ones. They're there when it's boring, when it's tough, when life isn't Instagram worthy. If someone only loves you when it's easy, it's not love. That's performance. Love doesn't perform. It commits, it shows up, and it stays even when the feelings don't. You deserve someone who doesn't disappear when life gets complicated. Who doesn't check out emotionally because they're going through something? We're all going through something. The difference is, people who love you make space for you, even when they're carrying their own storms. Love isn't about perfection. It's about presence. Consistent, reliable, grounded presence. Stop settling for the people who breadcrumb you. Little crumbs of attention here and there just to keep you hoping. Just enough to keep you close, but never enough to make you feel secure. They show up when they feel you pulling away, say what you want to hear, and vanish once they've reeled you back in. That's not love. That's manipulation. That's comfort disguised as connection. Love is action, not promises, not potential, not I'm just bad at communication. Love shows up over and over again. It doesn't give you just the highlight reel. It invites you into the real story. The hard parts, the quiet parts, the clawing parts. If you feel like you're in a constant cycle of proving your worth just to stay close, you're not in a relationship. You're in a waiting room, waiting for them to finally choose you fully. And let's be real, you're not asking for too much. You're just asking the wrong person. The right one won't make you question if you matter. They won't disappear when it's inconvenient. They won't only love you when you're shining. They'll love you when you're tired, anxious, breaking down, because their love isn't based on your performance. It's based on your presence. So stop confusing attention with effort. Stop thinking that they came back means they care. It's not about who comes back. It's about who never left. Because love isn't proven in moments of desperation. It's proven in daily, quiet, reliable choices. Love isn't supposed to feel like a question mark. Love is consistent or it's not love at all. One of the most dangerous things you can fall in love with is someone's potential. Not who they are right now, but who they could be. If they changed, if they healed, if they grew up, if they finally showed up the way they keep promising they will. And I get it. You see the glimpses. It's a soft moment. It's like the rare times they say the right thing or show the version of them you believe is buried underneath the hurt. But here's the truth. Potential is not enough. You can't be in a relationship with a version of someone that doesn't exist yet. You can't keep loving the fantasy while surviving the reality. Hope is beautiful, but false hope will break you. Staying because you believe in what they might become is not loyalty, it's self-abandonment. And if the only reason you're holding on is the dream of a someday, then you're not in love with them. You're in love with the idea of them. Potential doesn't pay emotional rent. It doesn't hold you at night. It doesn't fix broken patterns. It doesn't apologize with action. People don't become better just because you believe they can. They become better when they decide to. And if they're not choosing to grow, then you're choosing to stay stuck. You can't carry someone to their transformation. It's not your job to be their wake-up call. Too many people stay in toxic relationships because they remember how that person used to be, or because they're convinced that with just a little more time, things will finally change. But let me ask you, how long have you been saying that? How many more apologies will it take before you realize their actions speak louder than their intentions? You can't spend your life waiting on a maybe. A maybe will leave you emotionally bankrupt. Don't get it twisted. Seeing the good in someone doesn't mean you're meant to stay and suffer until they figure it out. Your love can't heal someone who doesn't want to be healed. Your patience won't fix what their pride refuses to admit. You can love someone deeply and still walk away when they aren't loving you right. Letting go isn't giving up. It's finally realizing that you deserve more than empty promises and almosts. Potential keeps you in cycles. Potential keeps you in cycles. It makes you excuse red flags, overlook repeated patterns, and silence your own needs. You start saying things like, oh, they just need time, that they didn't mean it, or they've been through a lot. While all that might be true, you need to ask yourself a hard question. Where does their healing end and your breaking begin? You don't have to stay just because you saw a spark of who they could be. That spark is not your responsibility to protect. That's on them. If they can't or won't step into their own growth, it's not your burden to bear. Love doesn't mean dragging someone toward their potential. Love means meeting someone where they are and being honest about whether that's enough. So here it is. Stop falling in love with potential. Start falling in love with reality. Because if the only thing keeping you around is the hope that someday they'll finally be who you need them to be, then you're not building a future, you're building a fantasy. And you deserve a love that's real, not one you have to keep imagining. You keep waiting for someone to choose you, don't you? To finally say, I see your worth. To fight for you. To show up the way you've shown up for them 100 times over. But here's the thing, you're giving them something you haven't even given yourself. Your full commitment. And until you choose you first, you'll keep handing yourself to people who never asked how heavy that cost really is. Choosing yourself isn't selfish, it's survival. It's reclaiming every piece of you that got lost and trying to be enough for people who couldn't even be honest with you. It's looking in the mirror and saying, I matter too. Because the truth is, the longer you wait for someone else to validate your worth, the further you drift from the part of you that already knows it. There comes a point where loving someone else more than you love yourself stops being romantic and starts being dangerous. You start bending so much to keep them You forget what standing tall feels like. You start making excuses for their absence, their disrespect, their inconsistency. You tell yourself that they're trying while you're slowly dying inside. But love isn't about losing yourself to prove your loyalty. No more. No more giving people the best of you while accepting the bare minimum in return. No more overextending yourself just to be tolerated. No more shrinking to fit into someone else's comfort zone. Choosing yourself means drawing a line and saying, this is where I stop abandoning me to keep you. It means loving yourself too much to stay in places that drain you. It means walking away, not because you don't care, but because you finally care about yourself enough to leave. You're not responsible for saving anyone who keeps choosing not to be saved. You're not obligated to stay in a relationship that only survives when you ignore your own needs. Well, choosing yourself is knowing that peace is more important than potential, that your sanity matters more than someone's apologies. You don't owe anyone your breakdown just because they gave you their attention. You don't owe anyone your future just because they shared your past. If choosing them means losing you, it's not worth it. And if they get angry when you finally put yourself first, that was never love, it was control. Loving yourself isn't a moment. It's a decision you make every day. In the boundaries you set, in the silence you no longer chase, in the silence in the text you don't send, in the closure you give yourself. It's in realizing that you don't have to suffer to earn love. You don't have to sacrifice your mental health to keep someone who was never willing to grow. So this time, instead of choosing the person who keeps you waiting, choose the one who's always been there. You, the version of you who stayed through every breakdown, picked up the pieces, and still believed better was out there. Choose yourself first, not because no one else will, but because no one else can do it, like you should have all along. You've been living in dysfunction so long, it started to feel like home, like that silence after an argument that never gets resolved, like constantly walking on eggshells, adjusting your tone, measuring your words, just to avoid another emotional landmine. But let me tell you something you've maybe forgotten. This isn't normal. The chaos, the cold shoulders, the constant confusion. That's not how love is supposed to feel. When did we start believing that love has to come with pain? That emotional instability is just part of the process. That arguing every week is just how relationships are. That being ignored, dismissed, gaslit, or controlled is a form of passion. You're not crazy for wanting peace. You're not dramatic for craving emotional safety. You're just tired of surviving something that's supposed to help you thrive. You're not meant to constantly question your reality, to wonder if you're being too sensitive, to second-guess your own memory because someone keeps twisting the truth to protect their ego. That's not love. That's emotional warfare. And the longer you stay, the more normal it starts to feel. But just because something is familiar doesn't mean it's healthy. We repeat what we don't repair. If you grew up watching Dysfunction, you might think love has to be unpredictable to be passionate. That tension means you care. That suffering is part of the story, but it's not. Love doesn't require chaos to feel real. Real love is steady. Real love is calm. Real love doesn't have to be dramatic to be deep. Don't let a broken pattern become your blueprint. Don't let pain disguise itself as patience. If you're constantly being pushed to the edge, constantly playing the role of healer, fixer, forgiver, ask yourself, is this love or is this survival mode masked by attachment? Dysfunction has a way of keeping you hooked because it offers just enough highs to make you overlook the lows. But that emotional roller coaster isn't romantic. It's traumatic. You shouldn't have to keep explaining basic respect. You shouldn't have to remind someone that you deserve kindness, consistency, or communication. You shouldn't be exhausted from love. That's not the cost of connection. That's the cost of losing yourself trying to hold something broken together. And no matter how much you love them, you can't carry a relationship alone. Healing starts when you stop calling dysfunction normal and start calling it what it is: toxic, abusive, draining, unacceptable. And I know it's hard, I know it's scary, but the longer you pretend this is okay, the more you teach yourself to settle, and eventually you'll forget what healthy even looks like. Until one day, peace feels suspicious and love feels foreign, but not today. Today, you name it. You see it, eat. You stop excusing it, because the truth is, you were never meant to survive love. You were meant to be safe in it. You were meant to grow, not shrink, to feel grounded, not guarded. So no more normalizing dysfunction. If love hurts like this, It's not love. It's time to let go. You keep waiting for that one last talk, that one conversation where they'll finally admit everything they did, where they'll validate your pain, say sorry and mean it. Explain why they treated you like that, why they pulled you close just to push you away. But here's the truth most people don't want to hear. Closure isn't always a conversation. Sometimes closure is a decision. You don't need their words to heal. You don't need their version of the story to move forward. Because let's be real, some people will never own what they did. Not because they don't remember, but because accountability threatens the image they've created of themselves. And if you keep waiting for them to say the right thing, you'll stay stuck in a story they've already closed the book on. Closure doesn't come from hearing, "I'm sorry." It comes from saying, "I've had enough." Enough of the confusion. Enough of the disrespect. Enough of trying to read between the lines and decode silence. Closure comes when you stop chasing clarity from people who benefited from keeping you in chaos. And let's be honest, even if they did come back, even if they gave you the words, would it change the damage? Would it undo the nights you cried? The way you questioned your worth? The way they made you feel small when all you wanted was to be loved right? Most of the time, we don't want closure. We want comfort. We want comfort. We want a softer ending to a story that wrecked us. But not all pain comes with a poetic conclusion. Some doors close without noise. Some goodbyes happen without ceremony. Some people leave and never look back. Not because you meant nothing, but because they never knew how to mean something real. And that's not a reflection of your value. It's a reflection of their capacity. Their absence is not your fault. Their silence isn't your shame to carry. You're allowed to walk away without understanding everything. You're allowed to create peace in your own mind, even if they left you with questions. Closure isn't about getting the perfect ending. It's about choosing to stop reading the same painful chapter over and over again. You give it to yourself when you stop needing them to explain what they never had the courage to say. So stop checking their social media, hoping for clues. Stop rehearsing what you would have said if you had the chance. Stop holding space in your heart for someone who already walked out of it. Closure is when you stop needing their permission to let go. When you decide that their silence will no longer be the loudest voice in your life. You don't need their apology. You need your freedom. You don't need their explanation. You need your peace. So today, choose to close the door they left open. Not because they finally gave you answers, but because you finally gave yourself the truth. It's the moment you realize you don't need one to move on.